All right, yesterday President Obama delivered a tirade against Donald Trump and detractors who criticize how he's handled the threat of terrorism. My guest KT McFarland says the condescending lecture echoes Jimmy Carter's famous malaise speech. Watch.
In a nation that was proud of hard work, strong families, close-knit communities, and our faith in God, too many of us now tend to worship self-indulgence and consumption.
He sounded like a preacher giving a lecture. Well, here to explain the impact on the election and Obama's legacy, it's Fox News national security analyst KT McFarland. It's really interesting. Now, you pointed this out, the similarities between the two speeches. Very similar times in the election cycle, really only a month apart. Jimmy Carter, first-term president, facing re-election. And he gave this condescending lecture to the nation, saying, you know, we are a greedy nation and we are materialistic, and it's basically all our fault. Did you feel like President Obama was doing the same thing in his speech yesterday?
Yeah, and I would say it's even more of a parallel, because in 1979, when Jimmy Carter gave that speech, the United States economy was a mess. We had stagflation, government spending out of control, everything looked bleak. I mean, the interest rates were something like 20% if you wanted to buy an apartment. The second thing is we were getting kicked around all over the world. The Russians were kicking us around. The Iranians had American diplomats held hostage for over a year. And we had lost this sort of sense of national purpose. Yeah. So Jimmy Carter comes out and makes this speech thinking he's somehow going to change the course of his presidency. And it did, but it changed it for the worse, because people point to that speech as, here he was, where he should have been rallying us, and he was scolding us. He was saying, all these problems are your fault, America. At the end of that speech, and for the months thereafter, Jimmy Carter was considered a lame duck, weak, ineffective president. Ronald Reagan beat him in 1980. The rest was history. I think we're in one of those periods again today.
Yeah, okay, so, you know, you point out also that Jimmy Carter gave a lecture but didn't have a solution, whereas Ronald Reagan came in and he said essentially the same thing, but he also relied on the optimism and the tenacity of the American people, and said, you know, he used the phrase that Donald Trump has borrowed for this election cycle: we can make America great again. Does Donald Trump have the kind of plan necessary to combat the president's lecture that he gave yesterday?
Well, we'll see. I mean, Donald Trump has the opportunity to do what Reagan did. He has the opportunity to rethink a lot of American conventional wisdom about taxes, about government, about foreign policy, the way Reagan did, and then change the world. Donald Trump, he's at that same historic moment right now, and he certainly has a Jimmy Carter foil of President Obama, who can go scold everybody and say,
not even running for president. I mean, that's the galling thing about it. He's not running for a third term, though he's acting like someone who is.
Well, I think he hopes that if Secretary Clinton is elected president, President Obama, gets to control everything for a third term. But his scolding, telling us it's all our fault, and then to see really no solutions being offered except criticizing the other guy. And then Trump, we'll see if he has an opportunity and seizes that moment. I think he has. I think he's started to do that. I think he's started to redefine how we look at foreign policy, America's role in the world, America's role in these treaties, what should the United States do to lead again. And whether he puts meat on those bones, we'll have to see. So far, he's sketched the bones out pretty well, though.
Well, and he's certainly been given a lot of material with this president, who seems to have an obsession with Donald Trump. And, you know, I guess I was most offended because, like everyone else, you want to have your fears soothed. You want to have that context and perspective. And I think the president lost a really important moment where he could have had his challenger speech, and he gave that up in order to very insecurely attack Donald Trump.
Cheap political charm. What we want our presidents to do, and I've worked for 3 presidents and I've known them well, what we want our presidents to do at moments of national crisis is to do 2 things. One, to grieve with us. You know, whether it's Jackie Kennedy at John F. Kennedy's funeral, whether it's Ronald Reagan at the Challenger disaster, whether it's Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg. We want our leaders to say, I understand your pain and I suffer with you, and it's a noble suffering. The other thing we want is we're spooked.
Yeah.
We're spooked all over America. What if it could have been Disney World? And here was a club, and we've seen time and time again, and there seems to be no plan to reassure us that isn't ever going to happen again.
No.
All the president does is say, I feel your pain, I deplore the violence, but no plan.
But then offers a lecture and condescension for those he thinks are responsible, which distracts from the ultimate point. KT McFarland, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Always love talking to you.
Thank you.
Very good.